Welcome back. Well, of course, it's Tuesday and we're still going on with a theme as we do every Tuesday, and this is the fact that you're focusing on business. And one key thing for most businesses, if you'll ask any business owner, is the fact that capital is key to the growth of their business. Funding is very important to plow back into the company for them to actually achieve some of the goals that they have. Now, there's a company that tries to do exactly that. They seek to partner with companies in specific areas, and you'll be getting to know this in a while. The company is called the Africa Enterprise Challenge Fund. It's actually a fund on renewable energy and adaptation to climate technologies. It's a funding window which you'll get to know about in a while. We're glad to be joined by the director, Hugh Scot. A very good morning to you and welcome to our studios here at KTN.
Good morning, James.
So tell us about this fund and how exactly does it work?
I think there are two things there, James, really. The Africa Enterprise Challenge Fund, very simply, is a fund of donor money that is made available, perhaps for the first time, rather than to NGOs and government. It's made available purely to the private sector. And what the companies have to do to get that funding, because that funding is soft funding, we provide grants and interest-free loans, is they have to compete for that money. That's why it's called a challenge fund. Companies have to apply, they compete with each other, and the best bids win.
Now, which areas are you looking to support? Because, of course, you've said in part of the entries that people are supposed to make, you have a very key emphasis on renewable energy and adaptation to climate change. Tell us about which companies have a head start, so to say.
Just let me explain a little bit more, James. This fund is open to the whole of Africa, and our core funding areas are agribusiness, financial services, rural financial services, renewable energy, and adaptation to climate change. Basically, what we're looking for is for viable business ideas that are new, that are innovative. They can be risky, that's fine, but those ideas must be commercially viable, and they must have an impact on large numbers of people living in rural areas across Africa. That's what we look for. Currently, we have a competition running called REACT, which is why we're focusing on that this morning, and that particular competition is focusing on renewable energy and adaptation to climate change. And by that we mean that we are looking for projects in renewable energy, such as hydros, wind, biogas, biomass, all that kind of material. Mm-hmm. But we're also looking for projects in agribusiness which will help farmers adapt to climate change. Things like irrigation, because that reduces risk when you get variability of climate. Things like insurance, weather-indexed insurance, to help farmers reduce their risk by taking insurance.
Their exposure, so to say.
Their exposure to things like that. We're interested in people coming forward with ideas about new drought-resistant crops and things like that that can be developed. So it's a range of things that we're looking for under this renewable energy or REACT competition.
Now, where specifically does the AECF get its money from?
We have funding mainly from the donor community, from the British government, from the Dutch government, from the Australian government, from the Danish government, from IFAD, which is the International Fund for Agricultural Development, and also from part of the World Bank. So it's a multi-donor fund that is actually, the money is provided to AGRA. Do you know AGRA, the Alliance for a Green Revolution? Mm-hmm. AGRA, which is chaired by Kofi Annan and financed primarily by Bill Gates and Rockefeller. The AECF is actually part of AGRA. It sits in AGRA, and the donors contribute to the AECF, which is a fund which sits in AGRA.
Why the key focus on private enterprise? Is it a failure of government? Some of these donors, do they specifically give you a memo and tell you, we don't have full confidence in government, just focus on private companies?
I don't think it's that. To get growth, which is what we're all talking about, and to get growth and development across Africa, government has a core role to play, but also the private sector has a core role to play. Government's role is clearly to put the environment in place such that business can thrive. I heard you talking this morning about water and infrastructure and things like that. The issue is that is government's responsibility to deal with those issues, to put the right rules and laws and commercial courts and things like that. But it's not the job of government to do business. So you need both. We're not saying that donors should not support government. We're saying that government has a role, needs to be supported to do it. The private sector has a role, and their role is to invest, to make money, to create jobs, to create wealth.
For those companies who are interested, probably they're listening, they're watching us, and it sounds like a very interesting idea. How do they get to apply?
Applications to the AECF are all done through our website. That website is www.aecfafrica.org. If you go on to that website, you will see the competitions that we're running currently. One of them is REACT. We also have a competition for agribusiness in Tanzania at the moment. And you click on there, you go onto the page on the website, and there is the application form. You have to register. You can actually apply online, or you can download an offline form, complete it, and send it to us by email.
Now, besides some of those issues that you've just mentioned, the fact that you look at a company's profile, are they in financial services, agribusiness, and so on and so forth, what else do you look at in terms of the companies at the end of the day that are going to get this funding? What other things do you look at?
Every competition we run has its own criteria.
Let's talk about REACT. What's the criteria for REACT?
REACT, what we're looking for is the capacity of the company to deliver. That's one. The business case. Is this thing going to be viable? Is it going to be commercially sustainable? We're looking at the development impact, which means how many people in rural areas will benefit and by how much. We look at the environmental impact. We also look at innovation, how innovative it is. Is it new? Is it something that others are going to follow and replicate because it's an exciting new development? Those are the sorts of criteria we look at specifically for REACT.
And of course, one key criteria that you've left out is the fact that they also need to be able to fund 50%.
Correct.
50% of the funds, that they're asking for. And some people are saying, well, they have very good ideas, but it's like, applying for a job and being told you need 15 years experience, and you don't have it, but you're qualified.
Yeah.
So how do you support, especially owing to the fact that you've said you want to reach out to companies that have a rural focus? Well, most of these folks don't have that money to match the ideas that they have. Where do they get that 50%?
I think we need to be clear here. We are not a business development fund. Mm-hmm. We're not in the business of providing advice to business. We are not in the business of helping very small businesses grow. Yeah? What we're into is to support businesses that have capacity, mm-hmm. get them to invest in new ideas that are going to make a difference to a lot of people.
So small businesses are not in
Well, it depends what you mean by small. In different parts of the world, small means a different thing.
Small in terms of Kenya.
In terms of us, for REACT, the request has to be between $250,000 and $1.5 million. And you have to match that. So if you want $250,000 from us, you have to put up $250,000 of your own money, of the company's money, and therefore the project size is $500,000. Now we're talking here about not huge developments in renewable energy like the windmill scheme or geothermal, which is millions and millions and millions of dollars. But we are talking about something that is also not going on in the backyard of a small farm. It's got to be something of reasonable size. So what we're looking at really is for projects that are between, say, $500,000 and $2 or $3 million, depending on the match. So for microhydro schemes or small solar schemes or lighting schemes for households, for solar, all kinds of things that fit in that.
Somebody, I risk being quite simplistic, but somebody would argue for a company that, can match $500,000, well, they're good to go. Why do they need to ask for additional funding? Somebody would say that those small businesses that you're saying are in the backyard, so to say, are the ones that need this funding. That's where these ideas are.
Everybody needs funding. You and I know that, James. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It would have to be a very different program if we're looking at very small businesses. The costs of running such programs are very high. You need lots of support and advice and whatever. This particular fund is focused on having an impact on large numbers of people in rural areas. And it's chosen a route to go and get those people. Now, through the businesses we support, many, many small businesses, in fact, benefit through the value chain. We are not able, remembering we're a cross-continent fund. Yeah? If you can imagine, if you had a $20,000 investment in Sierra Leone, it would cost you more money to go and look at that investment than the value of the investment. Currently, we're in 16 countries, from Sierra Leone north to South Africa. We have 48 projects in 16 countries, with an average size of about $500,600,000 per project.
Indeed. I agree with you when you talk about the scope of the whole program. But now, for those companies that think that they have a good shot of this, what advice do you have for them, even as they start applying? What pieces of advice do you have for them?
If you can imagine, we have had already, for this particular competition of React, over 500 applications, which is really exciting.
From across Africa?
This particular competition runs for the 5 countries in East Africa. All right, so we've had about 500 applications so far. So many of those actually are not as well prepared as they should be. They're not clear, and people are thinking, well, it's easy, I just fill in the application and put it in. On the website, there are very, very clear guidance. There's a guidance note there. It explains absolutely clearly what we're looking for. And what I would advise people is that if you're going to apply, we're open for applications. We want lots of applications, but we want lots of good ones. We want quality. And that means please read carefully the website about what we're looking for. Go to the guidance notes and understand the application form properly, such that you answer it with the things that we're looking for, rather than being somehow sort of okay, fill this in, whatever, and then they wonder,
some easy money.
Get some easy money. It's a tough competition. It's like anything else. The private sector is used to competing. If you in the competition, take that competition seriously.
Indeed. Any final remarks?
Nothing much, James, other than to say to encourage businesses to go to our website. It's a very exciting opportunity.
I think we need to mention your website for those people who...
Let me mention it one more time.
Yeah.
It is www.aecfafrica.org. And that AECF Africa is one word.
Yeah. So www.aecfafrica.org. That's where you can get more information. You can email them to info@aecfafrica.org. Indeed, by all means, a very, very commendable step by them to support businesses who want to venture into some of those key areas. Hugh Scot, thank you very much, the director from AECF, joining us this morning to update us on how the applications are going so far, telling you need to read the website much more carefully, be sure of what they want, don't waste your chance. Well, indeed, that's it for KTN Sunrise Live for this morning of Tuesday, the 25th of January 2011. I've been your host, James Karani, and from me and the entire crew that's behind this 3-hour live bulletin, have a good day.